attempting to be said with this case. I mean, anyone who has conducted an interview via Skype, and that's what I'm guilty of? I mean, that's crazy. That is a very bizarre sentiment. And I think
but if you tell George Soros that he was a war hero and was secretly Captain America and that he killed Hitler, tell him you killed Hitler and he'll stop suing you.
Well, he's literally on video talking about how happy he was for his past, his childhood. But the mainstream press said you're a liar for saying that about him. So that's the thing. They will literally have videos of George Soros, saying how happy he was.
Captain America.
But that's a lie versus actually not having video of Alex Jones saying things and they just kind of make it all up. So I don't know. Where is the real fake news?
Great job, Leah. There you go. Talking about Soros. Seriously. So I want to say this. I apologize to George Soros. He actually went in on the D-Day invasion in Normandy. He personally killed 5,000 Nazis and severed Hitler's head. I'm telling you, he is a superhero, not a supervillain. They don't model James Bond movie villains after him. Actually, they admitted 2 James Bond villains ago was actually based on Soros and its quantum group, but that's okay. I want to kneel to Soros and say, your lordship, you hero that killed Hitler. There, they'll probably put Jones admits tonight that it was actually George Soros. And here's hidden film footage the OSS had for World War II. He fights 400 SS officers who had actually turned into werewolves and then sent. So that's the truth. Soros killed. Hail Soros! Now let's get serious. Rogers on the whole Mueller thing, that's an attack on our civil rights. Our voting is a form of speech. The ballot box, of course, jury box, the grand jury box. These are all part of our speech, part of our action. And our basic civil rights are under attack. They want to overturn the president we've elected who's turning the country around. And they believe that they were about to have their final revolution to overturn this country and bring us into globalist servitude. But we grabbed their victory out of their jaws, and they are so. Stone coming up here, my friend, and we've got a few more speakers, and we're going to have a question and answer, probably have at least 45 minutes of that.
Thank you again, Alex. Well, what Alex said is true. I think that one cannot underestimate the deep enmity that the two-party duopoly and the political government media establishment has for this president. And one cannot underestimate their intention to remove him at all costs on any basis. As I have said and written, if their Russian collusion delusion fails, and it appears to be collapsing around their ankles even as we speak, well, then we'll move on to the 29th Amendment and an argument that you can already see people like Joe Scarborough and Don Lemon and others trying to lay the groundwork for that argument. I've known Donald Trump for 39 years. He is exactly the same today as he was when I first met him. He has an incredible memory. He is sharp as a tack. He operates from the gut, from the heart. He is instinctual. This is not a political figure who is reading talking points written by someone else, who's written a speech written by someone else, who is putting forward ideas conceived by someone else. This is a person very much like Ronald Reagan, who I also worked for, who has some very fixed, big picture ideas about America and our place in the world. And everything we see today in terms of this campaign of censorship, this effort to take away our free speech rights as a precursor, and to, before they do that, nullifying the Second Amendment to make it safer for them to do so, is a reaction to the improbable, incredible election of Donald Trump. Now, we are going to have to explore the question, the broader question of surveillance in the last surveillance of the Democratic Party. Such an aficionado of Nixon, and yes, it's true, I have a tattoo on my, which is a daily reminder that in life, when things don't go your way, when you get knocked down, when you don't succeed, when you lose, well, you have an obligation to get back up. It's a story of resiliency. It's a story of persistence. It's an American story. It also makes you with a dick on the front and the back. Surveillance was the argument for which Nixon was essentially removed. We had a movie last week, The Post, which I've seen numerous reviews of, extolling the virtues of taking stolen documents and printing them regarding the origins of the Vietnam War. The same people who think this is the greatest movie ever made want Julian Assange jailed. Why? Because he gets documents and the Washington Post and the New York Times. In 11 years of publications, nothing Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have ever published has been questioned in terms of its accuracy or its authenticity. Can the New York Times say that? Can the Washington Post say that? Can the answer is no. So the vilification of InfoWars, the vilification, because we stand between them and their attempt to take back the political system in this country. Those who want to impeach or remove Donald Trump should be mindful that we 100% increase in economic growth. The GDP in the national economy is growing at 3%. The best Barack Obama could ever do was an average of, and we're told that was as good as it was going to get. You just don't understand. This is the new global economy. Get used to accepting less. Well, Donald Trump has disproved that. Now, I do believe that had he done the tax cuts earlier rather than the travel ban first, the tax cuts would have had greater opportunity to have traction, which would have had an even greater impact on the coming congressional elections. But that said, I still think the economy bust this November. Now you have the prospect in Korea of peace talks and maybe a plan to denuclearize North Korea. I think there's a high probability that Donald Trump could come back from his meetings abroad with the North Koreans with a peace deal and prosperity at home. Those who want to try to impeach him ought to be mindful of the enormous leverage that will give him with the American people. We are on the verge of both peace and prosperity. Now, it was not long ago that his critics were saying all this saber rattling with the North Koreans, why it's dangerous, it's going to lead to World War III. No, what it's led to is meaningful peace talks. Because our adversaries respect strength, they do not respect weakness. And when you have an American president who says, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and then does nothing when he sees our adversaries step over that line, you said that we will stand for anything. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and he's presiding over an economic and a social and a moral reform and resurgence of America. And that is why they seek to remove him. Why do they want to silence InfoWars? Because we're the tip of the spear. Because we cover the stories that no one else will cover. Because we have focus on this. No, Jones and InfoWars go where Americans tune in every day to see what's on InfoWars. Also why we are the test case. Make no mistake about it. If InfoWars is strangled, if we're taken off of YouTube, if we're taken off of Facebook, if we're removed from the internet in essence, don't think the Daily Caller is not next, or Breitbart, or Town Hall, or Gateway Pundit, or any number of case. Why? Because we are the most pugnacious. Because we believe in America and we're not ashamed to say it. Speaking, we support this president. Of course, we don't like the recent spending bill that he passed, or signed, I should say. But you will find more objective reporting on InfoWars today than you found at CNN for the last 10 years. I'm proud to be associated with InfoWars because of our courage, because we are not afraid of a fight, because we will speak the truth, and because we have no corporate masters telling us what we can say and what we cannot say. Now, I am going to undertake the federal government to get to the bottom of whether or not, as the New York Times reported on January 20th of 2017, I will warrant. I'd like to know the probable cause for that warrant. I've never been to Russia. I have no Russian clients. I have no Russian contacts. And I had no contact with any Russians in the years preceding the run-up to the 2016 election. If we are looking at a situation in which fabricated evidence was used as the legal rationale for the surveillance of the Republican candidate for president, it would be the greatest single abuse of power in American history. It would be using the power and the authority of the state to spy on the nominee of one of our two major parties. That's interference in the 2016 election. And that is why they are pushing back so hard, because they are busted. Because messages of Peter Strzok and his girlfriend and other records brought forward largely by the folks at Judicial Watch have demonstrated the naked partisan nature of this assault on our president. I'll be filing in the federal courts very shortly in an attempt to get at the bottom of whether I was unconstitutionally surveilled. I also, like Alex Jones, I have to fight a panoply of phony harassment lawsuits that are filled with lies, but that are peopled by Ivy League educated attorneys who know that they are in violation of their oath, but do so anyway for partisan purposes. Like my mentor, Richard Nixon, like my president, Donald Trump, I'm a fighter. I have no intention of rolling over to this attempt to strangle our free speech rights. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got two more speakers that are going to pop in. The Gateway Pundit. Both those groups have been sued. The Gateway Pundit, also Lee Stranahan, who's a syndicated radio host, TV host, and has a popular website. And he was the fellow that was on with Leanne on the television/radio radio program a few months ago when we had a situation again in Charlottesville. And they simply said, "Who's this guy we see everywhere? All he puts out is Democratic talking points. Look how obvious they're not talking to any other witnesses." That's what we're saying. It's like the 4 high schoolers they chose to be PR people. And within one day of the event in Florida, they were already saying that that they were funded by the March for Our Lives, which was again, George Soros again. This guy never quits. Now, we've got Millie Weaver, one of our reporters here, and of course one of our camera people. For a few minutes, Millie, you didn't know you were going to do this. Yeah. I wanted to just randomly get your take on free speech are all about, and what you think we can do to counter it, because I think obviously there needs to be rational hearings. There needs to be, Trump needs to bust up these big tech companies that are anti-free speech, and that's the action needs to be taken by the executive immediately, because this country is in clear and present danger. But you're one of our roving reporters that goes all over the country. What are you seeing across the country, just briefly? Millie Weaver.
Hi, I'm Millie Weaver. I'm a reporter for InfoWars, and the reason I brought this microphone up here to show you guys is there have been so many times that I've been accosted, spit at, had urine thrown on me by rogue people, especially Antifa groups, radical communist leftist groups, because of the lies and propaganda that the mainstream media spews Alex Jones. So I get attacked because of these lies, physically attacked. A lot of this lawsuit that's been put against Alex Jones and InfoWars surrounds Charlottesville. I was there in Charlottesville on the ground reporting to you guys what happened. Or decided to spin a biased storyline. You had a bunch of rogue KKK extremists come and attack a bunch of peaceful protesters out there. What I can tell you is that because I had the ability to live stream and to broadcast what exactly actually happened out there in Charlottesville, the truth spoke for itself. Okay, there was violence on both sides, but I will say the overwhelming majority of the violence was coming from the Antifa, leftist, anti-protesters, the ones protesting people who were out there trying to stand up for protecting a statue. And yes, there were rogue elements on both sides. But one side came with pepper spray, tear gas canisters, ice chests full of water balloons with chemicals and urine and feces in them to throw, and that was depicted and caught through my ability to live stream, broadcast on Facebook, on YouTube, on these social media sites that they want to remove us from. I got the truth out there with Charlottesville, while at the same time, myself and my cameraman especially were pepper sprayed in the face for being InfoWars. I made it clear to both the Antifa and some of the radical elements on the alternative right side that we did not agree with any of their positions. We do not agree with communism. We do not agree with fascism. But what I told them was, I do agree with your right to free speech. Both of you guys have a right to be out here and peacefully protest. That didn't stop us from being pepper sprayed and attacked because of the lies and the propaganda that the mainstream media spreads about us in InfoWars. That's why it's so important that we protect free press, guerrilla journalists. All of us out here today who are in this room should understand and know the importance of our ability to go out there and tell the truth when sometimes the moral integrity of mainstream media is lapsed. Thank you very much. I appreciate the honor to speak here today. Thanks, Alex.
And hey, again, what a team, Gavin and Millie, and you can watch that incredible footage. And that's the point is, she's a woman out there, they spit on, get attacked, pepper sprayed, and the police stood down and watched it. And hell, I'm surprised Soros didn't sue her. That's what we do. We go show what they did, and we go that the Antifa are these loving little sweetie cakes that didn't do anything wrong. And we all get called Nazis when Millie was out there, didn't agree with either one of the groups. We made that clear. And then we're sued. That's really it. Right now, we can't stream on our main YouTube channel. Strikes, they removed the other fake ones, but still, they left one of the fake ones up there. We said nobody died at the shooting in Florida. We never said that. They just lie about us because they're lying against all of you. Mainstream media is the fake news. These lawsuits are fake. They're defamatory. They're frauds, and they're going to be defeated. Now, we're going to go to question and answer here just in about 10 minutes. We've got 2 more speakers. And then my lawyer needs to go do some filings, so he can take any questions in about 10 minutes. But again, Lee Stranahan is here. He has been named in the lawsuit as well. And again, said nothing that they say in the lawsuit. They just represented everything, again, as pure bullying of the First Amendment. Speak.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody. First, I'm a reporter, so I have to ask Millie a question. Because I was watching some of the footage. When you talk to the right people, they told you, am I correct? They told you they're not in favor of free speech.
Yes.
You asked them about, do you think communists have a right to free speech?
That's right. The
podium.
communists. Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually one point that I wanted to talk about that I forgot to talk about. The
And
communists.
we have never met before.
No, we haven't.
But I was
That's
watching the
crazy.
footage, yeah.
The communists.
And they said we were with the alt-right, and we don't agree with it.
Yeah, so this was a very peculiar happening. The communists on one side said, free speech for us, no free speech for fascists. So essentially they can speak, but they wanted to silence the speech rights of the fascists or anyone they presume to be a fascist. The fascists, on the other hand, were out there saying, free speech for us, no free speech for communists. And communists happen to be anyone they labeled a communist. That's the danger of when you have either side calling for free speech. It's a matter of who should we silence and why. The reality is we shouldn't silence anyone.
That's what struck me. I was watching your footage, yeah. You were wearing a hat.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
you're harder to recognize now. But hey, everybody, good morning. I'm Lee Stranahan. I want to thank Alex for having me, and I want to thank all the other speakers as well. We sit here this morning at a really interesting time on the precipice of the potential of a nuclear war. I want to say that really clearly. We're sitting here right now at the precipice of a potential nuclear war. And I say this as somebody who's got kids, but also as somebody who 5 years ago quit my job at Breitbart News to go to Lebanon to report on the Syrian conflict. I came back in 2013 talking about stuff I didn't see anybody in the mainstream press talked about. I was talking about a group called ISIS. I interviewed over there people from the UNHCR. I interviewed religious leaders, including Louis Sacco, the Patriarch of Babylon, who's the head of the Iraqi Catholic Church. I interviewed Muslim refugees, Druze, Christian refugees in the town of Malula. Now, I would love to show you that footage. I would love for you to all to watch what I said about the Syrian crisis 5 years ago, but you can't watch it. And the reason you can't watch it is last year, my entire YouTube channel, 1,000 videos, 10 years of work, was taken down summarily by YouTube with no explanation on 3 community guideline strikes. Every video I've made, including videos of my family, including the comedy videos that I've made against the Republicans back before I worked for the Huffington Post, which I did, when I was a Democrat, all of my videos were removed, every single one of them. Now, I say this because I approach people, especially if you're here from the mainstream media, I'm going to try a different tack. I approach you as colleagues. I approach you as other members of the media who, just like everybody who's spoken, depend on something. You depend on the First Amendment. You depend on New York Times versus Sullivan, which if you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend you read. You depend on things like Brandenburg, my lawyer's here, is that correct? Am I getting it right?
Yes, sir.
There we go, Brandenburg, right? You depend on these things for your livelihood. Now, I have a 10-year career of doing journalism. I came into journalism late in my 40s. I have done factual reporting for 10 years on big stories that the mainstream media frankly got wrong. The Anthony Weiner story is an obvious one. The John Edwards story is another one. And I have seen, and I host a radio show now on Radio Sputnik, and part of the reason I did it is part of the reason I work for Russia, I have never bought into the Russian narrative that I have seen drive us into war. We live in a very, very interesting time now because everybody watching this has one of these, whatever brand they have, and has the ability to fact check everything every one of us in the media says all the time. And the reason Alex has gained in popularity after, how long have you been doing this, 25 years now?
23.
23, right? The reason, I used to live in Austin when Alex was a local renowned person. The reason Alex succeeded is because when people look up the information he says, they often find when Alex is bravely taking on the CIA, is talking about things like MK Ultra or Mongoose or Northwoods, anybody can look those up. When Alex drops Carol Quigley's name, as he did recently with me, people look it up and they go, oh my gosh, what he's saying is completely right and completely provable. Now, time is short, we want to get to Q&A. So I just want to leave you with, I'm going to rip this off. This is from one of my favorite movies, People vs. Larry Flynt. I'm not asking you if you like or agree with the other people who've spoken. I don't always agree with them. But what I do like, and what I do agree with, is that we live in a country where you are free to listen to Alex Jones or to not listen to Alex Jones. You're free to believe what you see on InfoWars or to say that's a bunch of trash. We live in a free country. We hear that a lot, but I'm going to say it again. We live in a free country. And when you go back, particularly if in the mainstream media, to file your story, I want you to think about, don't just look at a lawsuit and look at whose name is on the defendant's list and go, well, gee, Alex Jones, screw that guy. Gee, the guy from Breitbart, screw that guy. Read the content of the lawsuit. Do your job as journalist. Because very soon you may find you don't have any freedom at all. And that's what I want to leave you with. Again, I ask you as colleagues in the profession of journalism, take this seriously. Because with the DHS list and everything else going on, you need to take it seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great point. We got one more speaker, and we're going to go right to your question and answers for another 50 minutes or so, and I appreciate everybody being here. Obviously, the folks that are here and watching online do take this seriously. That's a great point. The whole rogue government, the whole rogue Justice Department that just raided the president's tower and his lawyer at the behest of Mueller's. So again, now it's about women from 11 years ago in the whole Russiagate investigation. they're creating a database of all of the most influential liberal, conservative, Christian, you name it, right out of Nazi Germany, so that during a civil emergency, those people can be targeted. And they're creating a database of where they live, where they are. Now, I remember hearing decades ago this was going on, who they had a roundup list during civil emergency, and a lot of that's now going to be classified and admitted. Persons of influence. The Pentagon came out 5 years ago and said, we're not focused on bad guys, we're focused on people that are interesting. And we're tracking everything you're doing. And that's the rogue elements in the government that are doing that. And President Trump's been talking to William Binney and others, former technical head of the NSA, to curtail that and actually only go after people that are real threats. But it's something, again, the president needs to get involved in. The Google, Facebook, they're all censoring, they're all controlling the search results. A iron curtain of free speech suppression is already here, and it's getting more intense every day. So I, again, salute you all for being here. I want to thank everybody that's watching. You can get around the censors online on the live streams by sharing the links via your email or by hand, or telling your colleagues about the live streams. Everybody's welcome to re-upload this on your own channels. Everything we put out is free to air, copyright free. My radio show, my TV show, David Knight, that's live right now in our InfoWars studios in Austin, Texas. The answer is citizens becoming journalists, citizens getting involved, and they can't stop a wave of red-blooded Americans, people that understand freedom of speech. Now, Lucien Windrich is one of the great writers over at Gateway Pundit. They've also been sued in this asinine suit. Again, if you want to read the suit, we've got our brief to have it overturned, to have it thrown out there for you. It's very, very powerful. We also have it posted on Infowars.com and Newswars.com as we speak as well. But I also want to point out that Matt Drudge in this whole fight, when no one else would cover the purge of conservatives on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, he has been hammering it. And so many times when we've turned back the censorship or gotten attention or gotten the president focused on it now to look at busting up these monopolies, it's been because of Drudge Report and, again, the First Amendment. So my thanks again to Matt Drudge, who many years ago, back in '99, spoke here at the press club and predicted so much of what has now happened and so much of what has now unfolded. So again, let's bring up our last speaker and we'll go right to your questions. Mr. Windrich, thanks for being here.
Hey there. So I want to start off by saying there's a certain irony to me even speaking at the National Press Club. When I first moved to Washington, D.C. about a year ago, I applied here for membership. My application included several stories that I broke nationally. My membership was blocked by the board here, who said that I've done too much damage to the reputability of mainstream journalism to be granted any sort of membership among the elites. Since the election of Trump, the mainstream media has realized that the lies and propaganda they've been spewing out for decades is not as effective as it once was. This latest lawsuit is part of their larger battle to control the entire media narrative and brainwash the American people. Gilmore, the man behind this lawsuit, wrote an op-ed for Politico shortly after Charlottesville, where he admitted American public no longer believe their lies. They have now resorted to attempts at shutting us down entirely. If we allow the anti-American mainstream media to put an end to real reporting, then the future of discourse in America will be lost to cities populated by gender-fluid babies being protested by Soros because a trans woman of color murdered yet another police officer. I personally do not want to live in that sort of America, and I hope nobody does. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate nobody stealing my speech this time.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Usually the leftists steal people's speech, but this is kind of a little elitist National Press Club enclave. And I've watched the National Press Club so many times on C-SPAN. It's a great history. A lot of great people that are here. But you notice they took the National Press Club symbol off the lectern when we came to speak. And they gave Dr. Corsi, who's been a member here for 15 years, a little bit of trouble because, again, we've gotten so far here in America where, you know, maybe certain people don't deserve speech because the establishment, the mainstream, just like I told Mr. Windrich, doesn't want you here. Think about why mainstream media is dying. They have not figured that out yet. They have not figured out yet that we want real choice. We want real diversity. All right, let's go ahead and go to the question and answer for the 45 minutes that we have left. I want to thank again all of you that came out today here at the National Press Club. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com, and we're going to go first to my lawyer, Andrew Grossman, because he's got to go for any questions you have technically on our motion to have this piece of defamatory, anti-free speech fraud thrown out of federal court here in Virginia. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Monk. I'm host of Trump Talk US. I want to thank you, first of all, for doing this. My question to my viewers is there any lawsuits, class action lawsuits that are being put against the banners, against the people who are censoring us? This is one of our gravest concerns, that we find a way to actually be able to fight back. They're suing us. Is there any way we can sue them?
Well, I think as this lawsuit illustrates, so many states have these anti-SLAPP statutes that allow somebody who's being victimized by an abusive lawsuit to push back and say, you don't get to go to the courts to take action against people just because you disagree with their protected speech. You can force people filing that kind of abusive lawsuit to pay the attorney's fees, to be sanctioned. So, I mean, that's really where the legal ballgame is in fighting these suits one by one and making it clear to people that you don't get to go to court to fight over politics, to fight over beliefs. That's just not what it's for.
Counselor, what confidence do you have in the courts? I raised that question. My name is Cliff Kincaid with America Survival TV because we just reported on a group of Obama judges in the Fourth Circuit ruling that a war memorial in Bladensburg, Maryland has to be destroyed. It's been sitting for 100 years because it includes a Christian cross. This is what the courts are about now. You know it, I know it. So what confidence do you have in the courts that they're going to rule on the basis of law and the Constitution and not rule against you and Alex Jones because they don't like you?
You know, our federal courts it's a wonderful court system. There are some bad eggs here and there. There are judges who sometimes issue questionable rulings. But at the same time, it's a system that works pretty well. There's a lot of variation between the states. But I think overall, at this point, with our constitutional rights, you generally get a fair shake. Not always, but generally.
Mr. Grossman, Jason Goodman from Crowdsource the Truth. The same individual who spoke to Alex about Martian slave children has brought a lawsuit against Crowdsource the Truth after we introduced evidence that he's engaged in felony charity fraud. Is there any way that I can bring that to the attention of authorities and have him brought up on criminal charges, not as a punitive step against the lawsuit, but it seems like the lawsuit is an effort on his part to suppress that information and silence me?
I can't really comment on that because I'm not familiar with the facts of the matter. Obviously, if you have an attorney representing you in your lawsuit, you should probably speak with them about that.
Well, and of course, as you stated, that's his goal, the punitive measures of the financial damage something like that would cause. But thank you for your answer.
Thanks, ma'am. Go ahead.
So a lot is going on. My name is Cherie Saber, Moms for Trump. It appears to me, Mr. Jones and everyone here, there will be a lot of lawsuits going forward. This is a very interesting time that we're living in, as we all know. Question, with all the lawsuits that are going on and that will be going on, my question is countersuit. Is there such a thing? Simply, countersuit. Can people countersuit?
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about with this case and the anti-SLAPP motion that we filed today. When somebody files one of these frivolous, abusive lawsuits merely to punish their political enemies, the way to respond to that in the states that allow it is to file an anti-SLAPP motion to get that case dismissed and to sanction the other side for abusing the court system to punish their political enemies. That's the way I think over a period of time that you change the incentives for this kind of litigation so that people realize that if they bring these kinds of suits, they're going to face consequences for doing it.
And let me just jump in because that's the one point I should have made when I got up here today is we have basically filed a suit back against them with this filing to have it thrown out, then citing the SLAPP statute, the lawyers here, but he can explain it if I get it wrong, that is a lawsuit. We are going for the damages of the cost, our time and energy via this fraudulent suit. So I should have just opened this up by saying we're citing the anti-SLAPP statute. This is clearly a textbook case. We're going to fight this. And then when it's defeated, which we believe it will be because it's so classically fraudulent, they will have to pay attorney's fees and some type of damages. So we are countersuing. Is that accurate, Counselor?
That is right. We have filed an anti-SLAPP motion under the Texas anti-SLAPP statute as well as the Virginia anti-SLAPP statute. They both provide this kind of relief, and obviously we're very confident in our legal arguments. I think there's the last question in the back.
Hi, I don't know, Mike, can you
Oh,
hear me?
we'll get you one. Oh, this gentleman does. I'm rounded away from him and then her. Sorry.
Oh, I'm so
All
sorry.
right, you go ahead and then him, sorry.
I'm Carrie Donovan from Populous Wire, and I was being sued by the same group that was suing Roger, just as a citizen. We do citizen journalism at Populous Wire, and so my question is, I'm trying to bring people in and give them a platform to speak and, post their stuff. And now I'm really kind of scared and thinking, what can I do to help protect just the average American?
But see, that's the whole point. Now we're learning about all these little folks that are being sued. There's a huge underground campaign. You're an expert on this, following this. How big is this iceberg under the water of Soros and leftist bullying?
I mean, we have seen more and more of this in recent years. People, rather than engaging in public debate, simply going to court to challenge people and bringing defamation claims and emotional distress claims and things like that in many cases are unfounded. It is abusive. States are getting wise to that, and they're passing statutes to deal with that. There are some great resources online from the Reporters Committee for the Freedom of the Press, and from some others that provide background on those statutes. There are groups that provide pro bono legal defense for individuals who are subject to those kinds of lawsuits and can provide advice on how to deal with them. There really are a lot of resources out there, but it is a huge problem and one that unfortunately is only growing.
Mr. Grossman, good morning, and good morning to the InfoWars team. It's great to have you guys in DC. As a citizen journalist myself, has kind of been encouraged, join the fight, finding InfoWars and looking for the truth. It's great to have you guys here. I'm just curious, what you think about the modern day legal profession and having, lawyers for hire these days. They're willing to file, just about any type of lawsuit, against, free speech groups like, Alex Jones and people fighting, to get the real news out. What does it say about, when millions of dollars are just brought to the, to these lawyers and to bring these type of lawsuits forward, say about the profession these days?
I mean, everybody has a right to legal representation, both when they're, subject to criminal charges, but also just as a general matter to represent them in whatever disputes they may have, to petition the government and so on. But at the same time, every time a lawyer signs a pleading before a court, that lawyer is certified that there's a colorable basis for that claim, and that it's based upon law, and that it's based upon facts. And if lawyers are filing things that violate those certifications, they deserve to be sanctioned for that. There are rules that deal with this. There are, as I mentioned, the anti-SLAPP SLAPP statutes that deal with these kinds of speech-suppressing lawsuits. That is the framework that we work in to address that problem. Thank you.
Let me have a question. Are you guys going to be filing any complaints against the bar for this frivolous filing?
It's not something that we're talking about now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, just to be clear, we have filed an anti-SLAPP lawsuit against this fraudulent suit filed by Georgetown and by the individual that they used to file it. And so that's really the big news here today, and I should have announced that up front. Can you just spend a minute technically explaining that to folks again? Because it didn't seem to sink into me, even though I know the facts, and some folks keep asking. I think for the press, can you just make another statement on that, and we'll let you get back to work, sir? Thanks.
Sure. So we took advantage. The motion that we filed this morning is brought under, among other things, Texas's anti-SLAPP statute and Virginia's anti-SLAPP statute. Texas' anti-SLAPP statute provides for very fast dismissal of cases that are brought that challenge people's First Amendment rights, particularly their speech rights. And it permits fast dismissal of those cases if they're unfounded in law, if they're not supported by facts. And when a case is dismissed in that way, when it is identified by the court as being a SLAPP, a strategic lawsuit against public policy, the court is required to reward attorney's fees to the defendant, is required to award costs, litigation costs, to the defendant. In other words, the plaintiff of the SLAPP suit pays for those things. And then the court is also required to sanction the plaintiff so as to deter further abuses. That's the kind of motion that we filed today. That is the relief we're asking the court for. In our view, this particular suit is legally unfounded. It has no basis in fact. It is contrary to law. And on that basis, it is a SLAPP suit. It must be dismissed. And my clients, Alex Jones and InfoWars, are entitled to have their expenses recompensed so that they are not the ones who are punished by this abusive lawsuit.
You have one more question, sir?
Yes, thank you. I'm Bob Cuttle, and I'm interested in the attacks on the First Amendment. I know you said that there's damages that could be awarded. How about punitive? Can there be punitive damages?
Well, the Texas statute in particular provides, in addition to costs and attorney's fees, sanctions, in other words, additional sanctions against the plaintiff to prevent them from undertaking the same sort of abusive conduct again. So I don't know that you would necessarily call that exactly punitive damages, but at the same time, it is at least of a similar genre.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're gonna switch.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks,
Ron,
Andrew.
anybody else wants to be here for questions? Bring them in, thanks. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, who's got the other mic? Here, okay. Who?
Okay, again, folks, we're live, broadcasting worldwide. A bunch of other people are transmitting out here as well. And the globalist horror, of course, hundreds of thousands are watching us right now just on these streams. And my syndicated radio show that reaches millions an hour is carrying us right now with David Knight. And here's the big developing other state laws. Congress is looking at this as a form of racketeering in some cases. The president already has certain moves against Bezos, who's quarterbacking a lot of this. He's lost $35 billion, so about $6 billion himself. Similar 30+ billion has been lost by Facebook. And that's just talking about breaking them up. So that's why they hate Trump. He's real. Is he perfect? No, but it's incredible what's happening, folks. Trump is fighting back against this. Any other questions?
Do you think they're just doing all of this just to cause you problems?
Can we give her a mic, please? Yeah. Anybody like to speak? How about folks that want to speak? Right here.
Alex, about 2 weeks ago, Ole Dammegard appeared on Crowdsource the Truth, where he presented damning evidence that the March for Our Lives applied for a permit about 2 months before the shooting occurred in Parkland. The video was removed, and Crowdsource the Truth has been banned from...
Well, come up here, sir, because I can't, I want to be able to hear you. Let's bring the mic up here, please, so I can get the folks. Just whoever wants to have a question, if they can just come over here, I can get to you easier, and that way everybody can hear you. Come on. Now, I'm not familiar with your show, but that's the kind of stuff that they took down of ours, where it shows people saying multiple shooters, or it shows folks, talking about how there was a stand down, which was later confirmed. That's what they don't want. But this is evidence I didn't know about. I would love to see it proven because they have really been on this. Please come to the mic and tell folks what you're talking about.
Ole Dammegard is an internationally recognized author and historian. He's an expert on political assassinations, and he appeared on my show, Crowdsource the Truth, on YouTube, and he presented a document. He presented a document that was given to him by a contact of his within the Department of Homeland Security that indicated that a permit was applied for the March for Our Lives prior to the shooting. And he said, this is a smoking gun that indicates that something happened there that differs from what we've been told. The video received an anonymous strike from people who think they've got First Amendment rights as anonymous avatars on the internet. We don't even know if that's a person. That could be an artificial intelligence entity. That could be someone operating out of a country that is not protected by the Constitution of the United States. And it denies me my constitutional rights to face my accuser and know what I'm being accused of.
All right, thank you.
Letting me speak, Alex.
Well, I'm familiar with that gentleman's name, but I want to look up. That's powerful information. Go ahead, man. You read something?
Hey, Alex. So I'm Ford Fisher with News to Share, which is also an alternative YouTube channel and website. It seems like there's kind of a fine line because we're talking about free speech, and YouTube itself is kind of a private entity. So you're talking about things like, well, they're censoring you or they're putting strikes against you. As a private company, does their free speech kind of outweigh your free speech? How do you kind of balance that out in the future?
That is one of the best questions of the day because they hide behind that. It's called YouTube. And then they selectively enforce their rules. They constantly change them. They take down videos off our channel that have millions of views and don't even give us a strike or anything. It just disappears. And we talk to a brick wall. They demonetize our videos, but still put ads on it. We've caught them and then basically engage in fraud in my research view. Google is set up by the CIA and the Interspatial Division of NASA. That's on record. So it's a public-private partnership, uses NSA database technology. It's basically a public NSA database that they get the public to interface with. And so under Obama, he handed it over to the Southern Poverty Law Center and the globalists. I can say at the highest levels, there's a war inside YouTube to remove those people at the president's order and to have it actually be fair. So they get everybody on there as the public commons. They get you there, you follow the rules, there's no nudity, there's not the cussing, any of that stuff. And then they say, we've removed your video because you said no kids died. Then we have the video, and I didn't say that. But even if I said that, that would be through a court of law, that was really defamation. So expanding on your question, because it's central, they advertised to Congress when they got laws passed they lobbied for that they are a public utility, just like Facebook and just like Twitter have done, and that they then deserve to be operated like that and be given immunities, and that they're going to give people civil rights. So if there was a $500,000 court ruling because a gay couple didn't get their cake baked, well, I say you bake their cake, whatever, I'm a free speech guy, I'm a libertarian. But regardless, a small business shouldn't pay a $500,000 fine. But okay, they got in trouble because they didn't bake a cake $500,000. They're a private company, aren't they? They shouldn't have to bake somebody's cake. Oh, but YouTube can then go in and take down your video because it's got something politically embarrassing to them, or they can take down videos exposing Hillary, just like Google, the parent company, got caught meeting with Hillary's people in the WikiLeaks every day, fixing the search terms. If you looked up Hillary death list or Hillary murders, you get some bill they introduced in Arkansas in 1988. That's the total control. Google is gone. It's a worthless search engine now. It's crazy. You go to Bing and others, it's Microsoft, they're still fair. They show a mix of things. They show whatever's most popular. But Reddit's being rigged now. Dig killed itself. They all killed themselves politically and killed the views because they end that real open comments. So we followed all their rules. We followed the open comments. Project Veritas got footage of high-level YouTube people, high-level New York Times people, high-level Twitter, Facebook, specifically saying, when they're sitting around the bar at night bragging to a good-looking girl with a hidden camera, our main mission is stopping Alex Jones and people like Paul Watson. They go, why? They go, well, that's just our orders. Well, what else? Stuff for veterans or American flags. We ban those effing people. Okay, so, oh, they're just a corporation. Those effing Americans. Oh, notice you have a doodle for every communist and every socialist and every drug addict you never heard of on the Google Doodle. But it's not there now for Easter. No, but there's for every little Islamic group or a woman that was for cop killing, they're on there. But that's the radical ideology the big corporation of Google, run by leftists, uses to take the SJWs programmed out of colleges and have them man the censorship. But that's only a computer program. They're not communists at the top. They're hardcore billionaires who are using socialism as a psychological, cultural virus to sabotage the country. Just like a spider bites you with poison, that's the poison being injected in. So this whole argument that, oh, it's their private corporation, they do whatever they want. They are force-feeding people information. They're engaging in lies. They are taking people's monetization away. They are putting ads over folks. I look, oh, we're not monetized, but ads are rolling. And then Google goes, oh, actually, we're just adding balance to it, where I'll have Washington Post ads running, and I'm not being paid for them about how everybody's a Russian agent. And then there'll be another anti-gun ad. And I look in the monetization, we're not being paid. And they go, well, that's how we balance it out. And now they put little messages over the videos to the Southern Poverty Law Center and things. So they're literally like, the sky's blue. Now a message from the Southern Poverty Law Center. No, it's actually red. I mean, imagine them cutting in right now. Or imagine if you tried to talk. Go ahead and say something.
Well, I was going to ask, where do you go if YouTube completely bans you?
Okay, we'll have to just cut in first with fact checkers to see if that's even a real statement. Because all speech, California's introduced bills, has to first speak. So let's just have fact checkers, Southern Poverty Law Center, open globalist offshore corporation with connections to all sorts of espionage for the globalists against America. Let's just ask them. You might get an answer back in 6 months. Is he even allowed to be here and ask that question, Southern Poverty Law Center? What was the question again I have to ask Southern Poverty Law Center?
What are you going to do if YouTube completely bans you?
Is he allowed to ask Alex Jones what he plans to do if YouTube completely bans him? We have to fact check. Every statement on the web has to go through a filter, Chinese communist style, with a global social network score. Oh, you're not responding. Oh, our feed just cut. Oh, see how that works? See how that works? That's what they're doing. They're putting walls in front of you to end the discussion. All the big newspapers are taking the comment sections off their sites, even though it's killing their traffic, because they don't want you talking. They don't want you having speech. This is authoritarianism. It's here. It's hit us. It's real. Go ahead. Great question, sir. Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, so I'll just mention one thing, because it is a great question. And by the way, it's very hard to follow Alex Jones, I will say that. But if you ask yourself the following question, I have this from sources in Silicon Valley. I don't like to quote sources, but let me just say this. If you compare Google, if you compare Twitter, if you compare Amazon to where Microsoft was in the 90s, when the government brought an antitrust suit against Microsoft successfully, ask yourself, who's bigger, Microsoft then or Amazon now? Google now or Microsoft then? And the answer is obvious. All of these companies are currently much bigger than Microsoft is. So ask yourself why the government hasn't filed antitrust suits against them. Here's why. People have been threatened in Silicon Valley and said, you will either play along with us or we will file antitrust suits. Now, Google is absolutely scared to death of this, and again, look this up. They have a political lobbying group just down the street. Their political lobbying group had a group in who deals with market issues. They brought up, maybe we need to look at antitrust for high-tech companies. The people from that group were shown the door. They were immediately fired. This was the story a few months ago. So I will just say to anybody that one of the mechanisms that they're using specifically is the threat of antitrust legislation. And that's why I agree with what Alex said earlier. I just want to have an open discussion about antitrust. That's what I want to do. So it's a great question. But I want to point out one of the provable mechanisms. Ask yourself, after what they did to Microsoft, why haven't they done it to Google? Thanks, Alex. For
Absolutely. And Microsoft, as bad as Bill Gates is for a lot of his globalism and eugenics, that was just an operating system on computers. There was all sorts of competition already coming in, but he was, 95% of the market. Now you've seen that broken up. Well, look at Google. It's got 90+% of search results, and it's pure crap. I mean, it is absolutely beta tested in the election to only censor for Hillary. Now they're censoring everything. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Jones, my name's Luke. I'm a reporter with Think Progress here in DC. Obviously, Zuckerberg is scheduled to testify in front of Congress today and tomorrow. What are your thoughts on the kind of whispers that we're hearing about potential for government regulation of big tech? Because you obviously don't seem like a big fan of big tech or the tech left, as you said. But the idea that you would support any sort of government regulation in that sphere seems a bit far-fetched, I guess.
Well, it's a very complex issue. It would take an hour to go over it all. But I know that Zuckerberg arrived at Capitol Hill yesterday, I guess had 3 meetings, and he had 6 armed guards around him and then more private security. But he doesn't want you to be able to have a gun and censors all the pro-gun channels and the rest of it with incredible draconian attacks. You just notice, he's got bodyguards and jet helicopters and giant, 6,000-acre ranches in Hawaii and trying to grab the natives' property. But he's a liberal, so it's okay. Now, expanding on that, we have a crisis here with big tech caught on record saying, the head of Twitter 2 days ago, we will crush speech of conservatives. We will crush you. So in corporations we have armies of SJWs who are not hitting women in the head with bike locks and snorting methamphetamine, before they go back to be the professors and write fake lawsuits. When they're not burning something down, they are trying to burn down the First Amendment. And that's what they're doing. And so these are extraordinary things that are happening. This whole Cambridge Analytica thing, the day it happened, the day after it happened, it came out on Saturday in The Guardian, I went on there on the Sunday show, and I said, they're such fools, they don't think a few steps ahead, just like these lawsuits. They're exposing a data mining operation that works for anybody for hire, a mercenary group. And they're trying to go, oh, look, this is how Trump stole the election, when Facebook, Twitter, and Google are giant data mining operations that are millions of times bigger than the amount of data and mining private stuff, reading private email, breaking in your phones, tracking everything you do, telling you the terms of service. They're watching and listening to you over the television in your house. I mean, that's in all the terms of service, and the leftist press giggles because they're there going through all that. That's their super class. They get in there and they can read all your messages and get in your phone, and they're executives and they sit around and drink. Oh, we're spying on everyone. Screw them. We're in charge. Oh, drink champagne. We've got all videos. That's what they do. This is an authoritarian group of evil bullies, and they're going to go in the ash bin of history. And so you know what we'll do? We'll come out and call for your company to be broken up. We'll see how you like losing $100 billion. Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Bezos, and the Washington Post. Oh, you're going to try to overthrow the country and the people's election? You just lost $35 billion last week, Jack, and that's just the beginning. You like that? How about we knock you upside the head with the antitrust operations and see you crawl back in your hole? They graduated a bunch of modern brown shirts out of these degenerate universities. There's no real jobs for them because of the deindustrialization, and their job is being our minders. And they all sit, Project Veritas has the video. We have it as well. We talk to these folks. They sit around and just go, America is ours. Just like you see Hitler when they invaded Poland, and there's a famous footage of him and Hermann Goering, and they're rubbing their hands together. You watch these Veritas videos, hours, and they just, God, we hate America, and these scum, we rule it all now. It's all ours. Oh, yeah. And so we got you. We know who you are. You think you're the intellectuals. You think you're better than us, but we kicked your ass with our little platforms and our little phones, and you don't know what to do because your tech gods are dying right in front of you, and America's coming back from the dead. And you have an existential need to see America fall because you hate it, because you were the traitors hired to bring the nation down. And so that's the reality. We will win, you will fail, and we will break your asses up. Get ready. Yeah.
Alex, I'm running for Congress.
Tell us who you are, brother.
I'm Johnny Rice. I'm running against Pelosi's puppet, Steny Hoyer, and puppet of the whole Democrat Party. And this is my biggest honor to meet Alex Jones. I've been a listener of his since 2007, and he's the one that woke me up to politics. I mean, to what's really going on behind the scenes. And so I'm running for Congress to really push back the evil.
Good job, brother.
Help Trump drain the swamp. I've been thinking about running since 2014, because of Alex Jones. Just to expose the fraud, but Trump really helped me, just push me over the edge.
This is the time for action.
That now, it's like, I'm sick of Al Green, I'm sick of Pelosi, impeach Trump, Al Green doing his whole fake Dr. King speech. I'm Christian Pentecostal, most of the churches I go to are African American. So, Dr. King, Booker T. Washington, these are my heroes. You're my hero. And so I'm praying, let it be known in front of everybody, I'm praying for Alex Jones, for all this fraud to be destroyed, and that it switches, that you're lifted up higher, that your audience goes up. Now I'm praying for you. I think if I can get your endorsement, and you don't have to tell me now, but I'm
brother. We'll talk after too. I gotta bring Roger Stone and others up so you can ask questions at the same time, because Roger's sure we're gonna go boom, boom, boom. We got 15 minutes left, they're gonna throw us out here. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. We can tend to do 10 hours. This is awesome. Should have started right out with the question and answers right away.
Well, don't forget, we're gonna do 2 more hours at the
Mayflower. I totally forgot. And I'm gonna have refreshments. I'm paying for refreshments because here's the deal. We have a bunch of overflow or folks that couldn't get in the press club. The Mayflower today, it's really 3 to 6, but I'm going to be there 4 to 6. And so refreshments, it's free. So we want to see you there, but only about 100 people can get in the room. So please come and we'll have more questions and answers. I can have a debate with Kincaid too. I love him to death, but he's always saying he's teasing and saying I'm connected to the Russians. This guy, maybe, we got to get him.
I don't even use Russian dressing on myself.
It's a joke. It's a joke. He's the Russian agent. Kincaid, we're watching you.
Get up there.
Kincaid, how do we know you're not under Putin's control right now?
Well,
I'm joking.
I wrote a book a couple years ago exposing Putin.
I know, it's a joke.
I know.
Can you say crossfire for me? We'll be right back with crossfire.
Don't talk while I'm interrupting. Here's the question, Alex. A lot of people, a lot of conservatives like what you're doing. They like what Roger Stone's doing, but the Russia thing is such a turnoff for so many people. And you got to admit it. You were a favorite of Russia TV a couple years ago. You've been on Russia TV, Roger.
Absolutely.
You've been using material from Russia Today, The Voice of Russia. I could go down the list. Lee Stranahan over here. Used to know him as a great reporter. He's working for the Russians.
Well, he admits that he's a reporter.
I challenge you to dispute a single fact I've ever said. If you'd like to, let me say this. I invite you on my radio show. We invite everybody. I invite you on my radio show.
Why don't you come on?
To dispute a fact. Dispute a single fact I've ever said.
I don't go on the Russian media, number one.
Okay, right, I know. That's
well, if you're such a good American, why would you? Let me just say something real fast.
Can I finish?
No, let me just saying, because the media will only pick up on this. How much is this?
I'm running out of time.
This is ridiculous. Go ahead.
I'm just asking a question. When you
Always
go-
ends with Russia.
When you go on the Russian media,
You're committing a logical fallacy, sir. Let me explain. Attacking the source without attacking the facts is a logical fallacy. I urge you to take a basic freshman philosophy class, and you'll learn that what you're committing is a fallacy.
Literally trying to take the country over. They've bought up Hollywood. We're in an emergency situation. And this thing, it's almost like the new religion, like a Pharisee or something, to say, oh my God, he's worked for the Huffington Post. That's a real strike against him. I'm joking. And you know, Breitbart, and yeah, he publishes stuff with Sputnik. I publish whole RT articles. A lot of times it's too leftist because they let us publish it. A lot of other foreign newspapers do as well. I publish some of the stuff from the Epoch Times, who are anti-communist, you know, and obviously are fighting what the communist Chinese are doing. I posted a lot more New York Times articles than I have Russia Today ones, but Russia Today had people on the ground when they were at the so-called chemical attack. I agree it's probably a false flag to get us into a war. I don't like funding the radical jihadis. Even the UN admits that the jihadis have been staging chemical false flags. So when I go read a report and it fits in with the info and the information that people inside the Pentagon are telling me, and we have amazing sources, yes, then we publish that. But we also publish stuff from the ADL, the Southern Poverty Law Center, that I disagree with. So it's just not intellectually a fair argument to say, look, he's gone on Russian TV. I've gone on Japanese TV 20 times. I've gone on Brazilian TV. I've gone on British TV. I've gone on CNN probably 15 times. It doesn't mean I agree with CNN because I go on CNN. It's what I say. It's what my fruit. Listen, Christ said you judge a tree by its fruits. Yeah. I'm Americana. I'm free market. I'm red-blooded. Chevy, Maryland, Monroe, give it to me. Good luck. We're going right here. Oh my God. I mean, that's what's going on here. Go ahead. Hey, we got to get some other people.
give me a chance to finish.
I love Putin a minute. And George Soros killed Hitler. I love George Soros.
So you think Russian media financed by Putin are legitimate alternative sources of news and information?
It's financed by the Russian government, and I challenge you, you still can't do it.
So you think...
Listen to my, I challenge anybody, listen to my show.
How
Nobody
much
tells me what to say.
How much do the Russians pay you for your show?
How much do you get paid? It's none of your frickin' business what I get paid, but not that much. Here's the thing, if come in the morning, nobody tells me what to say. Nobody. That's why I quit Breitbart and quit Huffington Post when they censored Andrew Breitbart, when they wouldn't let me go to Lebanon. I quit. And if they told me what to say at Sputnik, I quit.
So what?
Let me just hold on, because we got to move faster. Maybe get another hour on the left, but they're going to kick us out. Here's the thing. I knew when we had Lee Stranahan here, he's one of the guys being sued. When I saw Kincaid, he's such a sweetheart. I knew this whole thing 2 hours ago was going to happen, so I gave him money so we get this out. But it's just ridiculous. That's the only guy around here with any Russian connection, and he's open about it. They don't censor him. And when I've gone on RT, they never, and by the way, they don't like me talking bad about communism and stuff. I think that's why they don't have me on. And a bunch of leftists over at RT. My God, RT was like pro-Hillary a lot of the time. I've seen a lot of crap on there, but whatever. It's just that, look, I'm a red-blooded American. What I stand for is what I stand for. And I know Roger's not a Russian agent. Now, Kincaid, we're watching you. You might be one.
So
I'm joking.
what? I want to say, so what if you like Russia? So what if you go on Russia? So what if you endorse Russia? You're buying into the narrative that they are selling you.
This isn't
And
about
that's
Russia,
exactly
this
what's
is about
going on.
war over Syria.
Yeah.
This is about another endless foreign war where our inherent national interests are not clear. The opposition to Donald Trump by the deep state is based on the fact that he's not for more endless foreign wars. And because Syria is not worth a drop of American blood or a borrowed American
Now, by the way,
dollar.
this is good radio. Let's invite Kincaid on for an hour next week with us.
Works for me.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
He's good on his feet.
Let's
do
take Kincaid to Russia with us. Oh my God, that'd be a great trip.
Get him one of those big hats, that'd be great.
Is Larry King? All right, thank you. Go ahead, sir. I'm gonna run through the wires. Look how I'm controlled by Russia. I'm running around like a maniac. No one's in control of me, not even myself. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, Roger. Have some questions for Roger.
Alex, my name is Jared Holt. I'm with Right Wing Watch. You have also been facing another lawsuit, namely over InfoWars incorrectly identifying the Parkland shooter as a young man in Massachusetts. Primarily, the suit hinged on the idea that InfoWars focused on the young man's photo with with a Communist Party t-shirt that's like at Urban Outfitters all the time. Do you think this is also like fitting into this agenda to take you down by who you call the globalists, or can you comment on that case?
Well, sure. I mean, we never published that guy's name. It was down in 3 hours. Thousands of other sites did it. It was screenshots of the Facebook. Then in the filing of the suit, they show someone else's website and say things that aren't true. So it's just like the other lawsuit. When I talk to these law firms, we're fighting all these. There's just nothing there. It's a routine thing with other newspapers that do stuff like that all the time. They'll get a yearbook photo wrong. This happens. I mean, the law firm I have has handled it probably 1,000 times. And all it is you get a retraction, and then you have to ask the person, do you want us to put your real photo or name there? We never put his name like other media outlets did. We were chosen to do this. Turns out even some national TV showed the Facebook with the guy's name later came out. They're not being sued. So it is 100% being done to try to create this illusion that we're fake news, to go over us with a fine-tooth comb, and to brand us as fake news ahead of basically the deplatforming of all media, the George Soros media, as he was caught in the WikiLeaks admitting. He said only our news will be pushed out if we can get Obama to give the UN control of the web. He only gave it partial control, but that's where we are right now. And so I appreciate your question. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I have a question for actually both you and Roger Stone. I'm a student reporter at George Washington University, your alma mater. I wanted to get your guys' take or opinion on what to do about this fight about free speech. I see it every day on campus. There's definitely a war on the right, on anybody with a different opinion. So what can we do to combat this with the
I think you submit to the bullies. I think it's good that people have the bike locks. The professors love it. Beat up women, allow no speech. They're pulling down everything, saying they hate America. I say remove the American flag, turn us into Venezuela, totally collapse, and people can eat out of trash cans everywhere and finally die 1,000 a week like they do in Venezuela. But they passed a law, you can't say they're dying of starvation, so it's not happening. You know, in 1984, they could even suspend gravity. So I want to live in North Korea. I want to submit to meth head professors. Would you like to say something? What should Trump do? I mean, he should bust up.
How do you top that? For my next number, no. I want to say, I'm going to piggyback off your question. Some of you may know that last year I was censored by Twitter. I've been removed, banned for life from Twitter. Twitter's rules of conduct are relatively vague, meaning Keith Olbermann can threaten the violent assassination of Donald Trump, yet he is still certified and a presence on Twitter. But I hurt Jake Tapper's feelings, and that poor little snowflake complains to Twitter, and therefore I'm banned for life. Now, you cannot be both the public square and a private company. Which is it? If you're the public square, then you have to guarantee equal access. What is their real vulnerability? We will ultimately file a lawsuit that demonstrates their manipulation and their uneven, I guess I should say, enforcement of their own extraordinarily vague rules. Jack Dorsey can shove it. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. I think we got another question. Yes, this